Hi, welcome to Let's Unpack This.
Let's unpack this. This is Melissa.
I'm Lenore. Today we're going to talk about Alex Cooper's documentary and podcast that she had with Dax Shepard about her documentary. And for those of you that don't know, Alex Cooper is the Barbara Walters of our time. She's got one of the most successful podcasts in the nation and the world, I would say, and she is super popular. And Melissa and I were both struck by this documentary.
So struck. And I really like when celebrities or people of influence use their platform. I think it's a very responsible thing to do. And so her speaking on gingerism, grooming, sexual abuse, power dynamics, I think is a really important conversation to keep having. And so I'm very happy to continue this conversation about it.
Yes. So what is grooming? You mentioned the word grooming.
Oh, so grooming is the behavior that typically happens prior to abuse. Grooming is kind of laying the groundwork, right? To test the boundaries, to see what the person might be able to get away with you. So this comes up because Alex Cooper talks about the relationship with her college coach,
her female
college coach, who started year one, just paying attention to Alex, just keeping an eye on her like any coach would. And there were slow little signs that this might not be going well. So something might be her standing only in front of Alex's treadmill when all the girls are working out and reviewing the tape from the soccer matches and only speaking about Alex's legs and how muscular they are.
And how graceful she is.
Or, starting to ask personal questions that a coach and a player typically wouldn't.
Right.
So if I came to you, Lenore, and told you that was happening, would you think that's abuse, or would you just kind of set off a few little alarm bells of, I wonder what's going on
Well,
there?
For me, it would set off some alarm bells, but I think for most people, they would brush it off and say, oh, that's in your imagination. Yes. Nothing's happening.
Yeah, they would think, hey, that's a coach. A coach is interested in you. They are, they're just curious about you. But I think the important thing is it was starting to set a framework of a dynamic. The coach was setting the framework that I'm in control. I get to comment on your body when I want. I get to look at you how I want and when I want. And we're speaking about this because this happens so often.
And don't forget, Melissa, she was on a full scholarship.
Oh,
so there's another power dynamic.
She was on a full scholarship, and Alex was a really good soccer player. So anyone that is involved in the sports world, you want your coach to like you.
You want your coach to notice you. You want your coach to play you. Yeah.
And listen, you might need them to play you and notice you if you want to go pro, or if you want to advance, or if you want to stay on your scholarship. So there's inherently this power dynamic, right? Of I need this person to want me, like me, put me on a pedestal.
And Alex says in both the documentary and the podcast, I sought this out freshman year. I wanted her attention freshman year.
Yeah. So I think that's another important thing that we often hear as clinicians with people who get out of abusive situations. They struggle with some of the guilt because they're like, well, I sought out this person, or I went back, or I wanted it. And I think that's also the subtlety that we're talking about of abuse, is that it can start off very innocent and very nonchalantly. So I think excessive attention and flattery is usually seen with grooming. So asking personal questions early in the relationship or making the person feel chosen is very essential, I think, to the grooming process.
Yes, I heard this with a client of mine who had a teacher that abused him. And the teacher would say, well, your son he's really going to be special. He just needs a little extra help. And I need that after school. And that's what he told his mom.
And again, like Lenore said, it starts so innocently that if you're not trained to look for it, warning bells might not go off. As a parent, you think, okay, this teacher wants to invest.
Yeah.
extra tutoring, great.
My kid is special.
My
and
kid's special.
My kid shows promise. Yeah, I'm gonna take the power dynamic of the teacher. I trust the teacher in that position to do the right thing.
And then the next thing we often see is obtaining obligation or dependence from the person. So that might be a favor, that might be gift giving. Again, you see that with employers. So your employer can take away your job, right?
Yeah.
So you want your employer to be happy with you, and you might feel a sense of obligation. Say, they want you to stay afterwards for a work dinner, and you don't really want to, but they're your boss. You want to impress them. You want to make sure.
Absolutely. That sets up that dynamic. What else do you see in these cases of grooming? And again, this is subtle gaining of trust to see how far they can go.
I see a big one is isolation from others.
That's a big one.
That's a huge one, right? And we see that a lot as like, hey, this is our little secret, or hey, everyone doesn't need to know. And the subtlety of it, using a job as an example, it might be like, hey, your coworkers don't need to know. They're going to get jealous, or they might not like this, or they're going to come after you. And it almost presents like they're looking out for you.
Yes.
They're protecting you from potential trouble.
Or you have such a feeling of shame, you don't want to share it with anyone else. You're going to sound like a crazy person if you say, I think these things are happening. They're weird. I can't really describe them, but it doesn't feel right.
And I think that's a really important notation, is that all of these things are so little and so subtle that just on a one-off, it probably wouldn't raise flags. But then when you see the collection of them, you're like, oh my gosh. But to Lenore's point, it does feel uncomfortable telling other people that, because they might think we're crazy. And I know Alex talked about that. She didn't tell the other girls in her soccer team how many one-on-ones she was having, because one, she didn't want jealousy, but two, she didn't want to them to think she was a problem.
Right.
Or a competition to knock off.
I don't even think she told her mom in the beginning.
No.
And that is pretty common. And I know there are people out there that are listening to this and would say, why didn't they say something? Why didn't they do something? What do you think about that?
I think that's very easy to say outside of a situation that there's a lot of power dynamics, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of hiding. And I hate to say it this bluntly, but sometimes something's wrong and you can't get out of it.
And you can't get out of it.
If your employer is setting up an abusive dynamic and you don't have full proof, but you don't like it, but you need that income to survive, that's a lot harder to get out of than it might seem.
Yeah, and they're basically taking your power away through all these subtle steps of grooming.
Well, and that's an important thing to think about, is how does someone take your power away? They might control you with their words. They might pull you in for appreciation and gratitude and then push you out.
Absolutely.
They might tear you down.
You see in love relationships, they won't talk to you for days at a time.
They won't talk to you. They'll withhold intimacy if it's a romantic relationship. So again, you're kind of getting attacked from both angles. One, you need this situation, and two, your self-worth is getting chipped away little by little.
That's a really good way to put it. You're absolutely right.
So then when you're ready to get out, do you have the skills?
That's right.
And then talk about the isolation piece that's usually coupled with it.
Yeah, the isolation piece, usually they start with your friends, and then they start with your family, because they don't want you going to them and saying what's going on. Yeah, and then they create a relationship where the victim feels that they owe the abuser, or they're emotionally reliant on them.
So now we have a trifecta. My self-worth is beaten down. I don't have my friends and family to support me. And there's a power dynamic. This is getting harder and harder, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Or if it's my boss at work, or again, my coach who could take my scholarship away, or worse in Alex's case, like not play her.
She was very, she was compared to some of the soccer greats. She was compared to Beckham. She was, this wasn't a kid that just enjoyed it. She had incredible talent. And again, in the documentary, which I love, that depicted what a lot of people are going through in real time, is that her best friend, who is also a soccer player, was the only one that knew about the abuse, was the only one until her mom was brought in who knew about it. The coach kicked her off the soccer team, moved her out of the dorm, and said to Alex, see what I did to her? I'm going to keep going. So what does that set up, Lenore?
Yeah, that really sets up for like, I have total power over you and you do what I want you to do. She was driving her to night class.
Oh,
just
gross.
I've heard that about a couple of wrestling coaches. That's where it started. Don't worry, he's such a good player. I'll drive him to night class. I'll drive him at night. Oh, get him alone in the car.
You know, and a lot of my clients over the years, the way their abuse started too was their families were busy working or doing other things. And so they did get the rides or the extra babysitting to be going to these extracurricular events. And that also creates a little bit of a dependency where the kid doesn't want to burden the family. It's like, well, mom and dad are already stressed. They're already working three jobs. Yeah, I don't like driving in the car with this guy, but like, what am I going to say?
I'm better off doing what I'm going to do. Or, it's the same thing with the priests and the little boys. Who's going to not trust the priests? Again, these are power dynamics. These are people that the community trusts, that individuals trust, but have definite power over you. Because if this was just anybody doing this to you, you'd say, get out of here.
Get out of here.
I don't need this.
Yep. And I think the important thing is it starts slow and ramps up. So building, that connection and building kind of that secrecy. So it might look like, hey, oh, are you dating anyone? And it starts off really innocently where you're building a connection with someone. Yeah, I'm not dating someone. And a couple months later, oh, what's going on with your boyfriend? You haven't really talked about him. Again, very innocent. Maybe a couple months later, oh, you guys, how's your sex life? And I know that sounds crazy when you say it that way, but if you've been talking to this person for a year, you feel more friendship or more friendly to be able to start speaking in those intimate ways.
And that language kind of tests the victim, how they're going to react to sexual topics.
Yeah.
But it is wildly inappropriate as a coach.
As a coach, as an employer, as anyone in a position of power.
Absolutely. We see this when there's abuse of children, the abuser will turn it into a game. Oh, it's just tickling him. Oh, he was just reaching in my pocket for candy.
Oh, yeah. The face I'm making at Lenore right now is from shore. It just makes me, it's so heartbreaking. And, Lenore and I, we see it, how it impacts people for years and years and years and generations. And, I think the really important thing to keep in mind though is there is an ability to heal. There is an ability to get some of your power back and some of your autonomy. How do you help your clients that have had that life experience, Lenore?
Well, we use EMDR a lot, but EMDR is going to reset the power. We will actually take them back to that moment in time and have them scream, yell, hit, of course, not for real.
Yeah.
In their imagination. And they gain that power dynamic back by imagining themselves 20 feet tall instead of 8 years old.
Yeah. And
you see that even Alex Cooper, who's famous and has a platform, she still can't run on a treadmill today.
Yes.
What did you think when you heard that?
I thought that's a very honest window into PTSD. That's a very honest.
Absolutely. Because her coach used to stand right next to her when she was on the treadmill. To this day, she can't get on a treadmill. And she's had tons of therapy. I think
she's had tons of therapy, tons of success. She's in a position, I mean, this is a horrible phrase, where she could buy and sell people, right?
Yeah,
she's not reliant on some power dynamics now, but she's still that little girl that had her head slammed against the wall as a kid with the other bully kids. And she's still that college kid that was sexually abused by her coach. And continuing to take your power back is so important. And I want to say, like, learning to trust your gut, whether that's in therapy, doing somatic work, exercise, a combination of all of it. If something feels wrong in your gut, trust it.
You're right. The other thing I want to talk about for a second is when you go to the powers that be and reveal, when you go to a parent or not a teacher hopefully is going to react differently. But when you go to a parent, the parent says, oh, that didn't happen. Or she actually went to the athletic director, right? The athletic director didn't even hear her, didn't even listen or read any of the documentation that she had.
And worse than that, the director didn't listen and then said, what is it going to take to make this go away?
Right.
So that sends the message of, one, not only your pain doesn't matter, but two, now you're a problem.
It's institutionalized. Look at Joe Paterno sorry, it wasn't Joe Paterno, Jerry Sandusky, but they did blame Joe Paterno a little bit. Sorry, Penn State fans.
Yeah. It becomes institutional and it becomes bigger than the people. But you, as the person receiving that abuse, that PTSD, is really important to gain some of your power back. So trusting your gut. If something feels wrong, it's wrong. Even if it's like, I don't know if that's abuse. I don't know if that's grooming. Don't worry about the label. If something feels wrong,
it's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. And, I did want to talk one more second. Sorry.
Yeah.
What do you think people think sexual abuse is?
Oh, I think their brain goes right to kind of the heavy hitter things. I think they go right to rape, molestation, some of those extreme examples.
And I would say, in my experience, most of them have not been like that. I don't know about you. Most of them, it's been touching, grabbing, joking, in the form of joke. It's always in the form of something that they can make an excuse about it.
I think even, I think that it is usually more systematic, right? It is a buildup to that big, to that bigger event. But just so you know, joking can be as much dysregulating to your nervous system as having been raped. It is all how your nervous system processes it. So I have to fight, I say that lovingly, with my clients because they will tend to downplay. Well, it wasn't this. Well, it wasn't that. Well, it was bad enough to dysregulate your nervous system. And it was bad enough that someone didn't obtain your consent.
And then don't you think it makes it worse when they go to the powers that be and the powers that be brush it off? Then you really feel like you have no power.
I have more clients than I would like to have that went to their parent and the parent said, well, what do you want me to do about it? When it was another family member.
Yeah.
Talk about feeling stuck. Talk about feeling like you have no way out.
Yeah. And in summary, I want to reiterate what Melissa said about trusting your gut. And I want everybody to understand the consistent chipping away.
Yes.
At your esteem and your power.
So just like if you walk 5 miles into the forest, you have to walk 5 miles out. If all this stuff's been chipped away, you have to build it back, right?
Yeah.
So you have to build back that self-esteem. You have to build back that trust in your intuition. You have to build back some of that power. So I want to encourage people that it takes time, but it is possible.
It is possible.
So we see it all the time, and I think about what Lenore said earlier about imagining. We did an exercise yesterday with someone. They were having nightmares. And I said, imagine what you would do to those nightmares. And they said, I can do anything. I said, you can do anything. And they had very creative ways to get those little night terrors out of their head. So even using your imagination of like, if I was a kid and there was no ethics and there was no control and there was no limitations, what could I do?
Yeah.
I could create a wall. I could create a door that I ran out of. I could, become 100 feet tall.
I had a client run over her abuser with the school bus. I was like, you can do that as long as it's just here.
Yeah, as long as it's in your mind, go ahead. But also, you did nothing that could warrant this. No, often victims blame themselves. They believe they drew attention. They asked for it. They encouraged it. They didn't leave. On and on and on. And does any of that matter, Lenore?
No, because you have, it's hindsight. You don't know, you can't imagine what you were going through at the time. At the time, you didn't have power to leave. At the time, you were 8 years old, or you were 16 years old, or 20 years old.
And no outfit warrants abuse. No presentation warrants not needing consent. No behavior welcomes or should welcome that in response.
Absolutely. So Melissa,
Mm,
we have to go.
We gotta go. We gotta go. Well, I need you to build me back up after this topic. What do you always tell me, Lenore?
Don't worry about it. It'll all be okay.
All right.
It'll all be okay. Thanks for listening.